All across the country and all across North Texas, police are under fire from minority community leaders. Use of force is being questioned more than ever. But what about young black males? Do they have a responsibility in these police confrontations, and what are they being taught? That was a question today at a panel discussion in Dallas that included law enforcement and young black males. Fox 4's Sean Rabb was there covering it.
With officer-involved shootings and police contact with citizens under the most intense scrutiny ever,
this is a monumentous occasion that we can address a tough issue.
a panel discussion at Dallas County Juvenile on the tough issue. What are we teaching young black males?
It's mainly communication, and you have got to really talk to them, and you really got to break things down so they can understand it.
Some pointed to lack of trust in police.
The perception is that law enforcement targets people of color, and most recently, our young men of color. And that colors the way we react.
So if we are not familiar with the history, the reality, the perceptions, all of that, I think that we don't bring that into focus, we're not going to address the current issue that we're facing.
How does that perception change? Professor Everett Penn talked about his program in Houston called the Teen and Police Service Academy.
We go into juvenile facilities, alternative high schools, the most at-risk high schools, and for 11 weeks bring teens and officers together to allow them to have conversations and dialogue.
The group also viewed our judgment call story involving a Duncanville police officer and 3 teens with a BB gun. The officer did not shoot.
So at what point do we have to talk to our kids and tell them that there's a difference? There's a difference between complying and not fighting. They're not the same.
We want to present best practices to these officers on proven techniques.
Former Highland Park Police Chief Darrell Fant now heads up the North Texas Crime Commission, responsible for, among other things, training police.
It's a lot about human reaction, and when you approach an individual and you receive no respect, you tend not to give it.
All right, Sean Rabb's in studio, and I want to get into this a little bit. I thought it was interesting, Vernon Hale, the officer from Dallas, talking about there's a difference between complying and not fighting, and I guess the interpretation is some of these young men think, if I'm not fighting, I'm doing what they're telling me, but that's not it.
Right,
not
you
enough.
have to follow the verbal commands. If it's hands up, get on the ground, you've got to do that. Otherwise, you're not in compliance.
And there were young people in the group today. We just couldn't show them on camera for their
Right,
series.
they are, if you will, in the Dallas County juvenile system, so we could not show them on television. I did speak with some of them. Some of their concerns were they didn't think the police would be treated the same as citizens if the police committed a crime. They thought they'd be treated to a lesser standard of punishment if they committed a crime, and they just feel like there's this great distrust of law enforcement.
And it's not just in the African-American community.
No.
There's some socioeconomic stuff going on. Maybe
Yes.
the people growing up in poor neighborhoods, white or black, look at police differently and how they comply.
Absolutely, because in those particular neighborhoods, there's more contact with the police. And so across ethnic lines, white, Hispanic, black, socioeconomic really is the defining point, Steve, where there's this distrust, a greater distrust.
Okay. A beginning conversation.
Yes, certainly not the end all, but a beginning conversation, and maybe take that conversation from inside juvenile to different
homes and
communities.
places. Yeah, okay. All right. Sean Rabb, thanks.
All right.